If you're a gardener, you know that feeling of dread. You've poured your heart into your plants, and then overnight, they look like Swiss cheese. Well, today, we are done just fighting back. We're getting strategic. We're going to build the ultimate multi-level defense plan to take back your garden for good.
I mean, does this look painfully familiar? You walk out to your garden in the morning, coffee in hand, only to find your brand new seedlings have just vanished, and your beautiful hostas decimated. It feels like this relentless, slimy siege, and honestly, it can be just so frustrating.
And hey, if it feels personal, you are definitely not alone. I love this quote from a fellow gardener on Reddit because it just perfectly captures that feeling of total despair. It is a tough battle, for sure, but the good news is it's a battle you can absolutely win.
Look, just randomly scattering some pellets or trying a one-off remedy you saw online, it isn't a real long-term solution, you know? Reacting to damage after it's already done is a losing game. The real key here is to shift from that defensive reaction to a proactive, smart strategy.
And that is exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to build a comprehensive 4-level plan. Think of it like layers of security that all work together to protect your plants. We're going to use a combination of clever tactics, from changing the environment to a little bit of, well, biological warfare.
All right, first things first. To defeat an enemy, you have to understand it, right? So who exactly are these little invaders, and how do they operate? Let's get a really clear picture of what we're up against.
Okay, so snails and their shellless cousins, slugs, are both mollusks, and they just thrive in moisture. Their peak party time is at night or on those cool, gray, drizzly days, and that's why all the damage seems to appear out of nowhere by the time you wake up in the morning.
So how do you know for sure that they're the culprits? You gotta look for these classic telltale signs. The holes they chew in leaves are kinda irregular, but they always have smooth edges. They can mow down entire seedlings, just snipped right off at the base. And of course, the dead giveaway you just can't miss, those shimmering, silvery slime trails they leave all over the place.
Okay, let's get to our first layer of defense. And this one is the foundation of the entire strategy. Instead of just fighting the pests, we're going to make our garden a place they'd rather avoid in the first place. We're making it inhospitable.
So the whole point here is to take away what they love most, moisture and shelter. First, clean up any debris, loose boards, piles of stones, or thick ivy. To a slug, those are like 5-star hotels where they can hide out during the day. Next, let's rethink how we water. If you water in the morning, the soil surface has the entire day to dry out before their peak feeding time at night. Even better, if you can, switch to drip irrigation. That delivers water right to the roots, keeping the topsoil and leaves much, much drier. And finally, you can actually use your plant selection as a defense. Snails and slugs tend to avoid really fragrant plants like lavender, rosemary, and sage. They're beautiful and they're an effective deterrent.
All right, with our habitat improved, it is time for level 2. We've made the garden less inviting, and now we're going to put up some physical walls to block any of those determined pests that still try to venture in.
There are 2 methods that are really proven to work wonders. First up, copper tape. This stuff is fantastic for raised beds or pots. When a snail or a slug tries to cross it, their slime has a chemical reaction with the copper that gives them this unpleasant little jolt. Then there's diatomaceous earth. It's this powder made of tiny, fossilized organisms. To a soft-bodied slug, crawling over it is like crawling over broken glass. The one catch? You have to reapply it after it rains, because it loses its power when it gets wet.
Now, I'm sure you've heard this one. It's probably one of the most common pieces of garden folklore out there. Create a barrier of sharp, crushed-up eggshells to keep slugs away. I mean, it sounds like it should work, right?
But that's the big question, isn't it? We see this advice everywhere online. Is this a tried-and-true method passed down through generations, or is it just a garden myth that refuses to die? Let's see what the experts have to say.
And there you have it. The pest management experts at the University of California state that there's simply no solid proof that eggshells are an effective deterrent. So, while they're fantastic for your compost pile, you're much better off sticking with copper tape or diatomaceous earth for your barriers.
Moving on to level 3. So for the pests that manage to get past our habitat controls and our barriers, we're going to set some traps. But not just any traps. Oh no, we're going to lure them in with something they find absolutely irresistible.
Okay, what's so cool about this is the science behind it.
Researchers actually found that while slugs do like beer, they love bread dough even more. So this simple, liquid bread recipe is actually cheaper than beer and way more effective. You just mix the flour, water, and yeast, pour it into a container that's buried in the soil, and let that yeasty aroma do all the work. The slugs crawl in for a feast, and, well, they drown.
And now for our fourth and final level of defense. This is my favorite one. This is where we let the ecosystem do the heavy lifting for us, by encouraging the natural predators that see snails and slugs as a 5-star meal. You know, a really healthy garden is just buzzing with life, and that includes natural pest controllers. Birds like robins and thrushes, toads, ground beetles, even some snakes and small mammals. They all prey on snails. So, creating a wildlife-friendly garden, maybe with a small water source and some shelter, can bring in these amazing allies. But when you ask the gardening community what their #1 biological weapon is, one answer comes up over and over again. As this Reddit user puts it so simply, it really all comes down to one particular feathered friend.
Yes, release the Kraken! This just perfectly illustrates the community's enthusiasm. Ducks are voracious slug and snail predators. I mean, they are relentless, they are super efficient, and they will happily patrol your garden, turning your pest problem into delicious eggs. If you have the space for them, they are the ultimate solution.
So let's say you've implemented all 4 levels, but you're still facing a major, overwhelming infestation. In those really tough cases, you might need an extra tool, baits. But, and this is a big but, if you're going to use them, it is absolutely critical that you choose the right one.
And this is so important. Please avoid baits that contain metaldehyde. It can be highly toxic to pets and other wildlife. Instead, look for baits where the active ingredient is iron phosphate. It's much safer, and it works by causing the slugs to just stop feeding and retreat to die. Some iron phosphate baits are even approved for organic gardening, so be sure to check the label.
So there you have it, your complete battle plan. Let's recap. It starts with Level 1, make your garden inhospitable. Level 2, build proven barriers to block them. Level 3, set clever traps to catch the ones that get through. And finally, Level 4, call in the cavalry by encouraging natural predators. You see how each level supports the others? It's a system.
And really, that brings us to our final thought for today. This whole strategy, it's about more than just getting rid of snails. It's a real shift in perspective. It asks us to think about our gardens not just as collections of plants we like, but as balanced ecosystems. How can we create a space that is so healthy and resilient it naturally keeps pests in check all by itself? Now that is the real goal.